And I'm going to move really swiftly on to our next speaker, who's Foteini Agrafioti, who is the head of Borealis AI and the chief science officer at the Royal Bank of Canada. Foteini oversees a team of over 100 machine learning researchers and engineers in labs right across Canada. She serves as co-chair of the Government of Canada's Advisory Council on AI, advising the federal government on how to build on Canada's strengths and global leadership in AI. Today, she's going to share her wealth of knowledge and experience around generative AI integration and financial services, a balancing act. So please welcome to the stage, Foteini.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming in today. My name is Foteini Agrafioti. I'm the head of Borealis AI and chief science officer at RBC, the Royal Bank. And today we're going to talk about how we use AI and generative AI in financial services. I see a lot of familiar faces in the room, a lot of people that have worked really hard to build the AI ecosystem in Canada. So before I get started, I thought I would talk a little bit about the story behind how Royal Bank invested in artificial intelligence, why we did that, and why we put together a group called Borealis AI. So Borealis AI is, you can think of it as the R&D center for machine learning for the Royal Bank of Canada. So it's a group of scientists and engineers that have come together to create new algorithms, push the boundaries on the scientific front, participate in the academic community, and create solutions that are useful for financial services and for our clients at RBC. How we got started? About 7 years ago, we realized that machine learning, artificial intelligence as well, is a key technology enabler for our business. Across the board, from our retail bank to capital markets to our wealth management and advisors, we use data to make decisions every day on behalf of our clients. We wanted to lift the accuracy of the models that we had in production by introducing some more state-of-the-art machine learning techniques. And so I started going around Canada trying to recruit people that knew how to do state-of-the-art machine learning and bring them into RBC. I came here in Montreal. I also went to Edmonton, Vancouver, in Toronto, and I met with a number of PhD students at Canadian universities who were wrapping up their research. They were on the front line of all the inventions that had happened in reinforcement learning, in deep learning, and who were looking for jobs after they concluded their PhDs. When I was talking to them about what their plans were for after graduation 7 years ago, most of them would turn back to me and say, oh, I got that job from so-and-so tech company in the US, and I'm moving there in the summer. Or I got that job in machine learning in the UK, and I'm moving there from September. And it wouldn't occur to any of them, these were their best scientists or top minds, to take on a job back here at home. And for good reason. There weren't interesting jobs for top scientists in machine learning 7 years ago. And I think a lot of that has changed along the way. At RBC, we saw an opportunity to create a space for people that produce these algorithms that are on the front line to come in, give them the access to the vast data sets that RBC have, the compute capacity that is necessary to train state-of-the-art models, and the ability to publish the research that they do and contribute back to the scientific domain in doing that. And in partnership, of course, with our academic institutions, and thanks to the investments that the government has made and with CIFAR, in the creation of the Pan-Canadian AI strategy, fast forward 7 years, this ecosystem has changed a lot. And I think that we are certainly one of the top destinations globally for machine learning. RBC has certainly benefited from that, and I'll show you how. So this is Borealis AI today at a glance. There's about 100 employees. Backgrounds are mostly in computer science, engineering, quantitative fields. We have professors on staff, and people that really focus on the science side. They look at advancements that have happened in other domains, non-financial domains, and we do that work to transfer that into the financial services space. We do research, we commercialize that, we build it into products, we put that into our clients' hands. So everything we do at Borealis AI is focused towards production. It focused towards solving for a client need. Along the way, we published a lot of research. We've won awards for our research. We've been very, very serious about building a world-class research center within the Royal Bank, and so our presence in academic venues has been strong ever since. We filed our patents to support our intellectual property portfolio, and we managed to put RBC on the global stage for AI maturity. So a couple of years ago, there has been a public index that assesses banks globally on their maturity around artificial intelligence, overall maturity. And so what they do is that they will look at public information, and they would rank banks based on four criteria: talent, innovation, leadership, and transparency. And we consistently rank #1 in Canada, top bank for machine learning. We rank in the top 3 in the world, just behind JP Morgan and Capital One. So we've done really well, but beyond RBC, I would also flag that it's important to look at how the Canadian banks as a whole are performing in this index. We're certainly ranking really high, separating ourselves as a country from the rest of the pack. And I think a lot of that achievement really has to do with the fact that we have invested as a country in building this as a destination for scientists. We've enabled with people with an ecosystem, with the right advisors, the right academic institutions, and the power to build their research into world-class products here. And that's paying off for everyone in the industry. So to talk a little bit about how we're using that science in the bank, there's been a number of products that we've developed out of Borealis AI's algorithms, one of which is NOMI Forecast. If you bank with us, you can go on your app. You're going to find NOMI is a solution that essentially looks to understand how you're transacting, tries to predict your financial needs. We launched a product called NOMI Forecast on the RBC app a couple of years ago, and we've won awards for this solution. So what it does is it will look at your outflows, your inflows. So it will try to understand how you're spending your money, how you are receiving money, and it will make meaningful predictions about your cash flow so that it can warn you in real time if you're about to make a purchase that will bring you on the zero line, or whether there's money coming in that you need to be paying attention to. So this is an AI hidden in the background that monitors all the transactions and makes meaningful, customized predictions, personalized for each one of our clients. Another solution that we're very proud of is in our capital markets business. And I'm specifically very proud of that because this is Canadian science built into a Canadian product now used by Canadians, so we're very proud of this. Aiden is an equities trading solution that uses reinforcement learning to make automated buy-sell decisions in the stock market. When we started on this journey, this was about 6 years ago, reinforcement learning was an interesting science that had come out from the University of Alberta in Edmonton and was just starting to prove itself in the gaming domain. I'm sure you're aware of how it has performed in AlphaGo and many other solutions like that, where it's been able to model quite effectively performance in a gaming environment. We started looking at the stock market as scientists and trying to understand what makes us successful there and what doesn't make us successful. And when we looked at it, the way the stock market works, it formulated itself as a game where you take an action, the action changes the environment, and as a result of that, you're going to have to learn how to make decisions and take steps that will lead to the outcomes that you want. And so you would reward more of that behavior, and outcomes that you don't want when you lose money, and you would penalize those actions. And what we did was, with that hypothesis, we started looking at reinforcement learning, flying people in and out of Edmonton on a weekly basis, because at that time there wasn't anywhere in Canada that you could learn about this science, to understand how we could use that in the equities market. And we built prototypes, and we put them to production, and we seeded them with some of our own money. And we said, OK, now we have an agent that can trade automatically in a live market. Let's see if it can make smart decisions. And we watched its behavior over time. So it started at an infancy, where it would make really bad decisions every day because it just hadn't been trained, like my kids. You tell them, no matter what you say, they're always going to make the wrong decision. And then slowly, it evolved and reached this adolescent phase where they would make mostly good decisions, because they had seen a lot of data, they had experimented enough. But sometimes they would make really bad decisions, and we would lose money on those. And eventually, thank God, at that point, I wasn't fired. The bank kept funding the project, and we all believed, because we were able to see the learning curve in the background. And this is the trick with AI. Like, you got to believe that you're trending towards the outcome that you need, even though, as you're learning, you're making some bad decisions. All the way to this solution, trading consistently and beating our benchmarks every single day. And when it reached that phase, we felt very comfortable to start putting this in front of our clients and start inviting these conversations of, can we leverage this to become a destination or a trading activity in the bank? So Aiden today is one of our top trading products. A lot of the traffic, when you trade with a bank, will go through an Aiden system. And what's interesting about it is that because it's reinforcement learning and because it's an AI, we never switched it off. We turned it on, and it was able to adjust itself in changing market environments, going through the pandemic, going through US elections, going through extreme volatility, and able to still deliver on its performance. That's Canadian science, and this is why we got this group together. When you have a group of smart people really connected to our own academic institutions, wired into the talent that lives in our backyard, really good things can happen. And I think this is part of, it's a good example of why we made this investment in building a group like this. And I'll talk a little bit about generative AI and how we see this in the bank. Obviously, it pushes boundaries. We've been interested in large models for a very long time. We knew that large models tend to perform better than smaller ones. And of course, in the field of NLP, the advancements with generative outputs have been very, very interesting. As we look at applications of generative AI in financial services, there are a ton. And immediately people jump into what we think is the riskiest one, which is a generative AI, a chatbot, if you may, that provides financial advice or services our clients. So instead of speaking to one of us in the bank, you would speak with a bot. We feel very strongly that we're very far away from that reality. First and foremost, because we don't yet see our clients interested in not speaking with a human in the bank and handing off that conversation entirely to an AI. There are some conversations that people may be comfortable having with an AI, but most in our field, where money is sensitive, money is important, it's your savings, it's the home that you will buy, your retirement, how you raise your kids, these are the types of conversations people appreciate having with humans. But we understand that the world may be headed in that direction, and it may not lead with interactions in financial services, but that is a potential outcome here, and we're working towards that world. The risks that we have to deal with have to do with, as you know, veracity, and I'm sure you've all now done a PhD in the hallucination space and what happens with GenAI there. Intellectual property, like the certainty that you want to have that your systems haven't been trained on the wrong data. Data loss is significant. Most of these models running off of the cloud, having personal identifiable information leaking into that, getting into a model that gets retrained are the types of outcomes that we certainly want to avoid. And the overall client experience, right? Like, I'm meeting our clients where they want to be. We're trying to understand through user studies where and how much people want to interact with financial services institutions through chatbots. What's interesting about being an AI scientist at RBC is we're not experimenting with our business model. And that's what always gave me so much comfort working at a bank and being an AI scientist. Because as you can imagine, this is a very regulated environment. A lot of the questions I get usually is like, are you happy doing this in a bank? You have so many constraints. When we start building AIs, when we start building Aiden, when we start building Nomi, we come to the table with all of our partners across the bank, from risk to law to our regulators, and we talk about it first. And we have a conversation on which boundaries are we willing to push, which are we not. The conversations we're never having are we going to change the relationship we're having with our clients? That is foundational. People bank with us, not because we have a banking license. They bank with us. You may be banking with us because you trust us. And so we would never compromise that. We will always find a way, and this is where Borealis AI as a capability in our enterprise is very interesting. It became the destination to build AI safely. We've learned how to make technologies like this more explainable according to our risk standards, and something that we can deploy and be proud of in front of our clients. And so having that human in the loop is very important when it comes to GenAI. We see immediate opportunities in the back office. As we're servicing our clients, we are using GenAI to surface information faster, making our own agents more capable, providing advice in a timely manner. Beyond generative AI for language, I would also want to emphasize that within the financial services industry, if I were to show you our servers at RBC, the data that are language data that leverage large language model are quite small in size. Sure, we have a lot of email interactions with our clients. Sure, people call us on our call center, and we have transcriptions of these calls. But as a bank, the vast majority of our data corpus is in transactions, risk, market. That type of data is way more interesting to us from a foundation modeling perspective. And so as much as we're interested in leveraging GenAI and natural language processing solutions, we're also building foundation models that are explainable and safe to use that utilize transaction data. So these are models that can be trained using the large data sets that we have, because any foundation model requires large data inputs, and they're able to generalize their outputs across different tasks. So solutions like Nomi can then be pre-trained on a large transactional data set, but then customize that, personalize that delivery, and personalization on the app for each of our clients. So we're excited overall about the future of GenAI. We see the back office as the first line of opportunity. We like to focus there because there's immediate efficiency gains in a lot of the applications that we have in the bank and for a lot of our employees, particularly because it falls within our risk standards and risk tolerance. And so having that human in the loop, usually the more highly skilled employees, so people that have been trained how to provide financial advice, having that oversight into that generative output before it reaches our clients' ears is very, very important. We're investing in running large language models out of our own premises in order to secure around data loss, and we build gateways to control access to cloud LLM systems so that personal identifiable information and other controls are in place, so we mitigate against data loss, as well as risks like toxicity and fairness and many, many other that come with generative AI solutions. I'll wrap it up here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And hopefully you're happy to take some questions. So I can open it up to our audience. We have some microphones. Thank you for your enthusiastic morning hand. I love that. Could you stand up and could we send a microphone? I'm not sure where our... But we need to capture your wonderful question on our recordings. Here we go. This gentleman here has got a question. And if you could say, if you're comfortable, who you are and project. Oh, could we turn the microphone on?
Hello.
There we go.
This is Kamran from Canada Revenue. First of all, congratulations for the wonderful achievements in the banking industry for you and Borealis AI. I'm just curious on the Aiden platform and the parameters that, is it all internal, or you mentioned about all of these black swan events, pandemic, and all those kinds of stuff. Once they occur, is it like connected to like a news source or something like that? I'm just curious on those externalities, parameters that you're capturing for that.
Great question. Naturally, when you're building solutions like this, especially for a stock market that is vulnerable and changes direction every time there's a piece of news getting published, you always think about, do I want to have that as an input into my AI as well? And we don't, not currently. The reason why we don't is because we're very concerned about the quality of the data that make it into the trading algorithm. So it currently uses only market data where we can verify the quality and the accuracy of these inputs. If you take data sources that are unverified, you're creating a level of risk, and then you're slashing an AI on top of that. It's a pretty bad idea. It's not within our risk tolerance anyway. And so we control the inputs, we control the outputs so that these AIs can only operate according to what our regulators are expecting, so they can't make crazy decisions. It's within boundaries, but they have freedom within that boundary.
Thank you for a great question. Do we have any others? Oh, raise your hand aloft. Thank you. Keep your hand up. So, roving mics. We have a lady. There we go. Yeah. If you could stand up, perfect.
Hello. Oh no. Hi. Hi. My name is Valentina. I am a CGEP student, and I just had two questions. Because the first one is, I was taught about the black box issue when there's like massive amounts of data being, used. So I just wanted to understand more of that transparency aspect of that issue and how RBC is handling it. And then the second question, if you actually want to comment, would be, well, we're seeing our society being changing into more of a cashless society. So I just wanted to hear your opinions on the future of our society being less dependent on physical money and the risks of that and pros.
Sure. Great question, thanks. So I think on predicting the future, whether our society is going to be cashless or not, I will leave that to others that are not scientists to do. I only make predictions on facts, and so I'm not comfortable even getting close to describing how the world may or may not look. But the moment I have right information, I can call it. We see good trends in people like preferring to use credit cards and online payments more than actual cash, but it's hard to call it yet. On the explainability, so here's where it's interesting. If you're in my shoes, every day on this job, you will have to trade a model that is explainable for a model that is non-explainable, that actually performs better and can be more impactful for the business. Every single day, there is a better solution that would drive the business outcome that we need, better experience for our clients. But if it's not explainable according to our standards, we will trade that off with a lesser solution that is more explainable. But we found ways along the way to balance the two. It can be found that more and more this is not a black or white answer, explainable or non-explainable. Usually it's a conversation with your regulators. What are we trying to explain? Is that much of an explanation good enough? And with your clients as well. Like, you try to understand what is their expectation. One of the most regulated aspects of our business, of course, is the adjudication of credit. When we don't extend credit, or when we do extend credit to our clients, now that's an area where we certainly need to be very, very clear about why that happened. And so there, you're always going to trade for an explainable model. But when it comes to a solution like Aiden, the explainability at a mathematical level was not as important as much as our clients that trade money through Aiden want to understand why it's acting the way it's acting. And so what we did was we built a second solution that's a sister solution to Aiden that watches how it trades, and based on market conditions, it makes a second prediction that assesses more or less which market condition led to Aiden to trade in a specific way. And so it's a probabilistic answer, but it's a good enough answer because as we roll out solutions like this, our clients used to call us all the time and say, hey, you just traded this. You made that decision. Why? And we used to go back and crunch numbers and come back with a solution when our models were deterministic. When our models are probabilistic, our answer is based on these market conditions and based on how Aiden performed up to that point, that's what likely led to that outcome. And for that constraint, that application, this is a sufficient answer. So explainability takes many, many, many different forms. And it always starts with what is the relationship you have with the client and what level of explanation is required. And in the financial services, there's a spectrum. We're very, very controlled, but less controlled.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining that balancing act. It's interesting. I think we have time for one very brief question with a brief-ish answer. That'd be great.
Thank you. Lawrence Musio, Global Risk Institute.
Could you stand up, please?
Yes,
Sorry,
of course.
I've just been...
You talk about explainability and you talk about balance. And so how do you balance the explainability, thank you, and transparency in AI-driven decisions with the proprietary nature often of these algorithms, especially when you're talking about sensitive financial information. So this is probably very proprietary to RBC, but so how do you balance that explainability, transparency, and the proprietary nature of AI-driven decisions? Thank you very much. Wonderful presentation, by the way.
Thank you. It's a great question. And so as much as we can for our critical areas and applications, we build in-house. Right? So when you work with vendors, you always run into that third-party risk, and that's quite substantial when it comes to GenAIs. And so we're having this conversation around where do we draw the boundaries, like where would we leverage a vendor model, a pre-trained model, versus an in-house developed model. And so for critical applications in the bank, we always lean towards an internal build. And with that internal build, we would decide, is there a requirement for a full explanation of the solution or not? In the most critical areas of that, where that full explanation is absolutely required, for example, someone asks for credit and we either adjudicate for or against, we ensure that these algorithms have very specific answers. And the way our regulators prescribe that is you should be able to say, based on this input, you can expect that level of output. So a linear relationship between input and output is the expectation that's around the explainability of these systems. That trades off all the beautiful nonlinear algorithms that would perform so much better. But then again, that's the decision we make every day. What's more important to us? And like maintaining the trust with the client, being able to answer spot on, this is why you may have got that loan or not, or give an answer of like, I'm sorry, my AI spit out that. Like there wasn't an appetite to ever move towards a world of a black box AI.
Great. Thank you very much. Please give a big hand to Foteini Agrafioti. Thank you.